It's yours. I mean, okay, I'm going to pretend I know what's here, but I only did it. It's like a cooperation of this kind. So, welcome everybody to this BMVA meeting about computer vision for smart environment and assisted living. Of course, this is Francesca and here's Henry. And yeah, we just prepared a brief presentation. I mean, we would like to share with you the motivation and the reasons why we decided to organize this meeting. Okay, this is like something obvious. The population is aging. I can tell you it for sure. I'm actually living in the region with the highest growth of elder, over 65 people in the world. It seems higher than Japan today. Liguria in the north of Italy. And so, of course, people, in particular people we are collaborating with in hospitals, are telling us that we should get ready for when we are old, in fact. So what's going to happen in a few decades. And of course, technology needs to be there, but there are so many interesting problems. And here we are just listing a few: rehabilitation, preventive care, which is even more important to get ready, let's say, for the problems to be, and then diagnostics is another important issue. And on the other side, there are other aspects that are not strictly related with aging, but are again important also in the case of an aging population, which is providing with enhanced abilities to interact with an environment that could be of help, and it could be could complement lack of abilities of the user, let's say. And Harry, of course, stop me and integrate what I'm saying if I'm missing anything. So there is an interest, and we can see it from also from the number of workshops that are organized specifically on this topic. Here we are just listing a few very recent examples of workshops that, in fact, in some cases are actually repeating, and they are kind of you can see them appearing every year now, like the first one, which actually reached the 5th edition, and. So, why are we ready to do so? Because we feel that it's somehow the right time the technology and methodologies are mature or are getting mature to start thinking not only in terms of fancy algorithms, but also in terms of effective systems and products. And this is the reason why when we were organizing this meeting, we were welcoming also companies, and we were lucky enough to have 2 companies among our presenters today, as well as researchers, because we think that there is time today to start being complementary about it. And so technology means, of course, all sorts of sensors that, in our feeling, in our opinion, should all come together to help in a complementary way. And I think that the availability of sensors with different capabilities is actually crucial for be able to design effective and working systems, as well as algorithmic developments, and of course the importance that we are giving today to the capability of dealing with large amounts of data. When there are many sensors, of course, the quantity and quality of data grows quite a lot. And actually, here we started thinking about more specific problems one may want to deal or to address within this very general framework. And in fact, today you're going to see presentations, some of which are kind of analyzing the problem at large. In other cases, there are methods that are addressing specific issues. And here you see maybe a not so. It's a partial list, as it happens, of different possible problems one may want to tackle. More on the signal analysis. Here, of course, we are focusing primarily on computer vision, detecting people, objects, faces, and so on. And then after you detect the single elements, we may start thinking about understanding actions, but also interactions among different agents. And interactions as well with the environment. And something that I realize now we are maybe missing is the fact that from all these coarse measurements, when one may also derive higher level information, which in general is not so accessible and not even so understandable by us, how can I say, engineers and scientists. For that we need, it's useful to interact with domain experts, with doctors in particular, that can lead us in understanding in what sense all these different cues could be interesting and useful to, for instance, evaluate the health status of a person, just to make an example. And then, of course, we are mentioning at the very end quite important open issues that one need to face when working in this field, privacy in particular, which in particular in Europe today is becoming more and more of an issue. And and this is like examples of all the challenges that each one of us, in a sense, is facing every day. The variation of the environment, the need for measurements and ways of evaluating the quality of what we are doing. We not always have appropriate benchmark. And in general, the general purpose benchmark are not enough for this specific application domain. And of course, long-term robustness and autonomy. Here we are talking about systems that should work all the time, no matter what. And in some occasions, they are actually vital. So if you make an error, there is people living there, and maybe they are not autonomous and not independent. They are relying on what we are offering them. So I think that this is, how can I say? I find it challenging, both in a good and a bad way. So it's also we should be very serious about that. And okay, so basically the idea that we had was we would like to understand a little bit what's going on, let's say, in Europe. Of course, Henry actually, and also Mohan, they are not working and living in Europe, but the idea of having this workshop here in a very informal environment was to try and see if we could start building a community of people with common interests and the right amount of complementarity and shared knowledge. And I think that we did right. We've been lucky, and we thank you all for that, in fact. And we also thank Andy and the BMVA for this opportunity. This is what we came up with. So today's program is actually quite rich and dense. We're going to cover different aspects. We're going to start with the first keynote, Mohan Trivedi, that we thank for being here with us. And then there's going to be a first session which is going to cover aspects of emotion analysis. And then after the coffee break, there's going to be a session where we feel that we're going to cover different aspects of long-term monitoring. Then after lunch, Andrea Cavallaro is going to be the second keynote. He's going to talk about, if I remember correctly, he's going to talk about what you can do with if you are analyzing signal coming from a wearable camera, which is a slightly different perspective, which maybe what we will see in the morning.
And using multiple sensors. Multiple sensors.
And multiple sensors as well, yeah, thank you. And then there's going to be a session where sensors and technologies are going to be addressed. And we're going to end with the last keynote by Paco, which is, in fact, I think maybe going to summarize a little bit of the state of the art today, as well as telling us something about his specific application expertise. So at the end, we are hoping to have time for a panel discussion, which we haven't prepared, but I'm sure that during the day, we will find the right inspiration for that. Okay, so we are already late. Sorry for that.